On the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the United Nations General Assembly voted to support a resolution backed by Ukraine and the European Union, condemning Russia's aggression. This measure directly opposed a competing US proposal, reflecting a significant shift in American policy under Donald Trump, who has aligned more closely with Vladimir Putin and distanced the US from its traditional European allies. The EU-Ukraine resolution, which labelled Russia as the aggressor and demanded the withdrawal of Russian troops, passed with 93 countries in favour. Meanwhile, 18 countries, including the United States, Russia, Belarus, Israel and North Korea, voted against it, a striking departure from previous American positions that held Moscow accountable for the conflict. The vote came as Donald Trump met with French President Emmanuel Macron at the White House, where they joined a call with G7 leaders to discuss potential peace talks and the widening divide between Washington and European capitals over the future of NATO. Speaking after the meeting, Macron described the discussions as perfect, but offered no additional details. Trump, in a statement, falsely asserted that the war would never have occurred if he had been president, and emphasized the G7's shared desire for peace. Trump's stance has strained relations with European allies and raised questions about the future of NATO. His administration's alignment with Russia and the suggestion that Ukraine is to blame for the conflict have unsettled US allies, potentially emboldening adversarial actions by other nations. Much to the shock and surprise of allied countries, Trump has suggested that Ukraine bears responsibility for the war, aligning with Kremlin narratives. He stated that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky shouldn't have allowed this war to happen, implying Ukrainian culpability for Russia's invasion and referring to Zelensky as a dictator. Trump's rhetoric has shifted US support away from Ukraine, emboldened Russian aggression, and strained alliances, thereby contributing to the ongoing conflict in the region. Germany's likely next Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, issued a pointed warning over the weekend, stressing the need for Europe to become more self-reliant. It's an absolute priority to strengthen Europe as quickly as possible so that step by step we can achieve independence from the USA, Merz said, reflecting growing European concerns about Trump's commitment to transatlantic security. The Trump regime has already initiated direct talks with Putin, excluding Ukraine from the discussions. In addition, the White House has reportedly pressured Kiev to agree to a critical minerals and rare earths agreement aimed at offsetting the costs of U.S. assistance during the war. In a statement today, Trump indicated that negotiations with Russia were advancing smoothly. "I'm in serious discussions with President Vladimir Putin of Russia concerning the ending of the war and also major economic development transactions which will take place between the United States and Russia," he said. "Talks are proceeding very well." The competing US resolution presented at the UN avoided directly blaming Russia for the invasion. Instead, it called for a general commitment to peace, urging both sides to work towards ending the conflict. Ambassador Dorothy Scheer, the US's chargée d'affaires at the UN, defended the measure as a forward-looking statement that prioritized diplomacy. "A path to peace is possible," Scheer argued, explaining the US opposed Ukraine's more pointed resolution because it believed a broader, less accusatory approach would reduce opposition from both Moscow and Kiev. Despite US efforts to rally support, the American-backed resolution faced skepticism from Ukraine and many European nations who viewed it as an attempt to sanitize Russia's role in the war. US diplomats reportedly lobbied foreign capitals over the weekend, pressuring EU and Ukrainian officials to withdraw their resolution in favor of the dumbed-down American proposal. The UN Security Council eventually voted to adopt the US draft resolution without mentioning Russia's aggression. The resolution received 10 votes in favor, while 5 members, including the UK and France, abstained from the vote. Secretary of State Marco Rubio defended Trump's approach, insisting the administration was focused on delivering a lasting peace rather than a temporary cessation of violence. President Trump is committed to ending the Russia-Ukraine war and to a resolution that leads to a lasting peace, Rubio said in a statement. The United States has proposed a simple, historic resolution in the United Nations that we urge all member states to support. In reality, the U.S. resolution is a simplistic word salad that fails to provide any lasting solution and obfuscates Putin from responsibility. The UN vote followed an intense period of diplomatic maneuvering. Both EU and US representatives scrambled to secure backing from nations across Africa, Asia, and South America. According to State Department officials, American diplomats worked tirelessly to persuade countries to shift their support from Ukraine's resolution to the US alternative backing Russia. The US proposal, however, omitted specific calls for a ceasefire or concrete steps towards ending the conflict, an omission critics say reflects Trump's broader strategy of softening opposition to Russia. When asked whether the administration was seeking global support for vague peace, one State Department official responded, "Absolutely, that's what the UN is all about." While largely symbolic, the UN vote exposed deepening fractures between the United States and its European allies. With Trump's administration pushing for direct engagement with Russia and downplaying its culpability, European leaders are increasingly alarmed by the prospect of a diminished American role in maintaining global security. As diplomatic tensions rise, the future of the US-European partnership and the war in Ukraine remains uncertain. These talks come exactly a year since Vladimir Putin ordered the execution of his political rival, Alexei Navalny. Navalny is the second opposition leader whose sudden death shocked Russia and the world. In February 2015, prominent politician Boris Nemtsov was gunned down on a bridge near the Kremlin just days before he, Navalny, and others were expected to lead a mass anti-Putin rally. Navalny's vision of a beautiful Russia of the future where leaders are freely and fairly elected, corruption is tamed, and democratic institutions work, earned him widespread support in the vast country. But in 2020, Navalny was poisoned with a nerve agent attack he blamed on the Kremlin. 5 months later, he returned to Russia, where he was immediately arrested and imprisoned for the last 3 years of his life. Russian authorities blamed Navalny's death, announced on the 16th of February last year, on natural causes. His family and allies reject that and insist he was killed on orders from the Kremlin. Details the current president of the United States seems happy to overlook in favor of friendship. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast on Wednesdays, co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with MeidasTouch.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.